Thank you very much for coming. It's a great honor to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation from Anna, Professor Anna Seike. It's a great honor to be here. And then thank you very much that you're sparing the time with me, because the time is the precious things what you have. So I really hope that you can get something out of this presentation, okay? I live in Sweden now for 11 years. I'm Hungarian originally, and I'm working together with Anna and then the great research team here. And mainly I'm working in research in different constellations like the Knut Wallenberg Foundation, and also with the WASP, which is the Wallenberg AI Autonomous Systems and Software Program. But also I'm working with lots with startups and innovation like AI Sweden and Ignite Sweden. So I'm betting on science, and I'm betting on innovation and entrepreneurship, okay? What I'm going to talk about today is what I've seen, what I've learned, what I read, what I listen to, and try to give you a smorgasbord, just to be a little bit Swedish, of why we are feeling what we are feeling, why adoption is needed. By education, I'm a technologist, I'm an electrical engineer, I've got a PhD from that. I also have an MBA, so my square head from engineering is a little bit rounded, at least from an organization development point of view. But maybe you could see that how I think the technology comes into our place, and then why you, psychologists, and people who are working with education is super important here and now, okay? So let's start. Let's start something that what we can learn from history, okay? Why we are here. I'm referring to two genius scholars, Carlota Perez, who is a professor and mainly working with business and then the impact of technology and technology revolutions on business and society, and Kate Raworth, who is a renegade economist, who really would like to make us understand that why we need a paradigm shift, why we need adoption. So this session is basically coming from their work. So it's not just that we can learn things that we don't have to do, like mistakes from history, but also, Carlota Perez pointed out, we can learn things that we should learn. So we can help ourselves in the current situation, in the current industrial revolution in this matter, and then how we can understand that how humanity has shaped technology, okay? So one of the great learnings from her is that technological advances has been constant, but not continuous. This is not linear. The technology is progressing, we get new technologies. No, you have different types of waves, and then these waves has a very clear pattern. One of them is that it's an overlap from the previous, and then there's an eruption, and then a frenzy, or the Gilded Age. We are somewhere there in the frenzy, in the Gilded Age, and coming into crash, or the turning point, where we need institutional adjustments. And then after that, synergy, golden age, and then basically the deployment of the new period and maturity. So what we can learn from history, because we already had four, we are living in the fifth, according to Carlota Perez, the fifth industrial revolution. So what we can learn, and as you could see that the first one was the industrial revolution, what we call it, machines, factories, and canals. And then we had the age of steam, coal, iron, and railways. And then we had the age of steel and heavy engineering, electrical, chemical, civil, naval. Very interesting, then in 1875 was the first globalization, the first big adaptation when it comes to what engineering, what technology pushed into society. This was the one when you had the steamships, the transatlantic railways, and so on. This was the one when really the world trade has happened. This one is the second industrial revolution, which gives you another globalization, which is more digital, and then even reach more people out and more things. Then we had the age of the automobile, oil, plastic, and mass production. This is what we are getting out of. This is what we learn the best, what we know the best. This is what we are living in, with all the good and bad things. And then this is why we really feel anxiety and surge to change and have the paradigm shift. Because the new industrial revolution, the age of information technology and telecommunications, ICT, has started. But very importantly, We are just halfway through, okay? So this is one of the reasons. We are in the crash point. This is where we are in the institutional adjustment point. This is where we really have to think about. This is why we have it. On a global level, on a meta level, this is what we feel. What does this mean then? These paradigm shifts are difficult and turbulent, but they follow a regular pattern, and that we see. So the pattern is always you have a bubble prosperity, a recession, and a golden age prosperity. Usually, the first period is led by finances with unfettered markets, casino financing, for example, what we have seen. If you think about 2008, the big crash, the financial crash in 2010, but also the dot-com boom in 1999 and 2000, when everybody was invested in internet companies, and then there's just that blasted that bursted that bubble. And all of them, they have a recession and a turning point. They had the canal mania, and then they had a big problem with the canals, but then after that they had the Great British Leap, or like you had the Roaring Twenties and the previous one, and a huge recession, including the Second World War. And then after that we had the post-war golden age. Now we are living through a series of crashes, which again started somewhere in 2000. We haven't really learned, we haven't really understood that we are in the period of crashes. And actually, the pandemic is one part of it. And then if we don't understand how we have to adopt, what we have to adopt, how we have to come out, what is the paradigm shift we need, then we will be in trouble to get into a global, sustainable ICT golden age. Okay? So we are in the middle of crisis now. It's good to understand that. This is, again, on a meta level, this is what we feel in countries, in person, in organizations. And it's coming back and back in the form of the pandemic, unless we understand that how we have to make a change, how we do and what kind of paradigm shift we have to do, how we have to tame technology, okay? So Kate Raworth came up with a model, and what she says is that all innovation in everything what we do should be connected to this. What is the human prosperity, how we can live here in the earth during or after this paradigm shift. She created a donut. Her idea is very important that, again, the economic progress is not exponential. The economic growth cannot be infinite. You really have to be in between boundaries. And she defined two boundaries: social foundation, which is the inner circle. You have food there, you have energy there, you have water, you have education, income, and so on. And then an ecological ceiling, like climate change, oceans, ozone layer, and so on. And that there is a small little interval where humanity should live on this earth, and then basically to preserve and then secure our future. So according to her, this is the paradigm shift we have to come up with. Instead of an growth which is exponential, we have to rethink that how we can fit in to something that is not, when it's finite and it's not infinite. She called this picture as the collective selfie of humanity now. We are not doing so good. This is very clear. This is, again, gives us an anxiety to us. This gives us something in the whole society, in countries, again, in regions, depending where you live. And then it's very clear, for example, that when it comes to the nitrogen phosphor loading or the land conversion or the biodiversity loss or climate change, we're absolutely shooting out. But also we have problems with clear water, we have problems with food, and then also inclusion. This is also something that we have to work on. So this gives you a very nice canvas that what kind of paradigm shift can be done and should be done to prosper in this or after this or within this industrial revolution. She goes a little bit deeper, and I really like this picture. This is what we live. This is how we live today. We take, we make, we use, and we lose. to be very honestly, does it make sense to you, this picture? Would this something that you would like that your children will inherit from us? This type of mentality, this type of behavior, this type of thinking, that how we are working in this ecosystem? Absolutely not. This is the result of the previous industrial revolution. When they went for mass production, when they created the globalization, when they created everything, the engineering-driven ones, and they using all the sources and resources from Earth, and then basically they didn't have the thinking, they didn't understand that what will be the impact of this. So what she's saying, that we have to change our behavior, we have to change our thinking, and then we have to create a regenerative and a restore type. We have to do circles about this. This is a huge mindset change for people, for society, for politicians, for educators. How we can lead this. So get as few as possible from biological nutrition and technical nutrition, and then minimize the loss and basically minimize the waste. And then try to reuse it. It's very easy to see it on slide, but just think about it, how difficult it is to change whatever we do in the different parts of society to live up to this. There are companies who are doing this already. There's a Swedish skiwear company called Houdini. They're using only biodegradable materials, and then they get back your clothes, your used clothes, and they put it in a soil, they grew vegetables, and then you can eat it. But this is still very siloed. The whole society has to act. It's a big paradigm shift for us. Another one of my favorite ones is, again, putting these together. What is now the PITO, product in, trash out, absolutely globalized production. We talk about months and years, how you're acquiring the different assets and resources, how you're building it up and then creating, and then how much footprint, CO2 footprint you create. And then at the end, you use some kind of products and services, and then you just dump it out. But what has to happen is that cosmo-local production, data in, data out. Why do you want to make materials, metals, whatever, travel all over the world? Why do we have to have the screws from China to ship in so we can build servers here? What should travel, which is very, very light and very easy, is data. You really have to be connected globally with data. But when it comes to local productions on demand, which is regionalized, in the pandemic started to teach, for example, Europe, that we have to get back production into Europe. How we can create a new environment where we can have production here. We are not depending on something which is thousands of kilometers from us. And then co-design and then circulating in a local fab labs and maker spaces and creativity should be really done locally. So again, this is a new paradigm shift that we have to understand. And then we really have to act on this. And then we have to educate ourselves. We have to educate our children. And then we have to prepare, again, ourselves who are living in this, and then the next generations. So in summary, the innovation, what is needed, is distributed by design and regenerative by design. This is not, again, obvious. This is not something that we teach, or at least I don't see that we are teaching this, or it's so common to understand. But this is the paradigm shift, according to Kate Raworth. So going back to the current industrial revolution. So what's happening now with us from a technology perspective? It's driven by information and communication technologies, ICT, 5G, the whole cloudification, virtualization, automation with robots and robotics, and of course, artificial intelligence and machine learning. These are the ones who are really pushing. This is the ones from a technology perspective driving this industrial revolution. It's very, very important to understand. This is the ICT age of the technology revolution, what we are living in. What kind of impact already has? I got one slide, a couple of slides from Gartner. This is a consultancy company working mainly with technology leaders, like chief innovation officers, for example. This came out like a couple of months ago. They are having strategic technological trends for the next 5 years. So this is what they see, what is the next 5 years technological trends are. People centricity, very interesting. Technology, people are talking about people centricity. Local independence, obviously, again, pandemic really gave that a big boost. And then they talk about resilient delivery. They talk about resilience. They understand that the organizations, the platform, the technology should enable resiliency. We talk about business here and technology. But also what they say that you need combinatorial innovation. Today, I would like to draw your attention to one, which can be scary, or it can be very enlightening, depending how you see it. Internet of behaviors. Anybody understands that? What is it? Internet of behaviors? It's happening already, and it's going to happen more and more. It's not just about Google and Facebook or the Chinese government who is using this and then try to really engineer our behaviors. But this is a trend when corporates, companies, governments are going to use. What it is exactly is this very easy to understand picture. They're collecting data about you, how you behave, what you do, what you read, what you see, where are you, all sorts of things. They're put it into insights and intake and process. Then they see the behaviors and events. They do feature extractions. They try to understand that the data, what you have. But moreover, they start to upgrade or downgrade. So they try to change your behavior. Okay? So two very speaking examples of this was Brexit and the election of Donald Trump. This was totally engineered very nicely that how people started to vote for one camp and not the other. They did profiles. They profiled more than 80 million people personally, and they knew exactly what kind of fake news they have to generate to vote or to change their vote. Fake news, because they knew that how they would think about things. But again, this is the scary part. But now think about it as an educator. Think about that your mandate is to prepare this generation and the next generation for the paradigm shift, what I was talking about. But then it's enlightening. You will have a tool where you can use and understand how I can have it in my educational practices, how I can use it as a psychologist, how I can make use of the industrial revolution, what's happening. We started to call that together with Anna as data-driven social sciences. How you can really have that, how you can use this very important tool for the good and for our own sake. So one very important lesson also from Carlota Perez is that the new infrastructure, the Industrial Revolution, increases the distance to go to markets and creates new and cheaper way of accessing markets. So it always commoditizes a couple of things which are very important for society and industry. Previously, definitely it was, for example, travel and access to other. Now, what is going to be commodity is very important. It's computation, it's a commodity, super cheap. Communication, super cheap, already. Transaction will be a commodity. This is very important. That lawyers, banks, they started to get in a problem because they will be out from transaction if we start to use and then really make advantage of the blockchain technologies. Moreover, AI and artificial intelligence is giving you two things which will be commodity, started to become prediction and optimization. Prediction of anything and optimization of anything. This will be cheap. This will be cheap. This will be for your, basically for you to start to use. So you really have to understand that these are the tools as an educator, as a psychologist, where you can start to use in your research, in your everyday life, all of these. This is given by this technological revolution. In my humble opinion, the paradigm shifts, if I have to summarize it, it's very important that what we have in our society, it should be distributed. Personally, I believe in distributed autonomous organizations because they are the most adaptable ones. It should be sustainable because we cannot really live now, how we live on Earth, or we can have a plan B, just like Elon Musk has, try to get to Mars. But I really rather would stay on Earth and try to make it happen here. It should be circular, and also very important, it should be responsible. Responsible means ethical, responsible means trustworthy, which responsible means inclusive. I really think that it's very important that we bring up the ethical part of this industrial revolution as well. This is the first time when two science fields are exposed to ethics. This is computer science and electrical engineering. In the previous one, it was physics and chemistry. This one is computer science and electrical engineering. You can have a bigger harm using AI than using a nuclear bomb in a society. Again, just think about what happened with Brexit and think about what happened with election of Trump. So each new paradigm brings a new ways of living, working, producing, communicating, and we have to prepare that. We have to consciously understand where it is. It's a huge mental stress for people. But we have to be aware of this, and then we have to lead this. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen in the way that we would like to do. Okay? So definitely different sets of knowledge and skills will be needed. I give you one example, again, from Carlota Perez, that how she sees the universities. And it's very interesting to read through that the role of the university, how it's changing. Okay? I start with the first one, so the Industrial Revolution. So who to educate in universities? Political leaders, the church, the teachers, and military. And what? In what skills? General education. I jump in the bottom, so now everybody above, plus the innovators, the entrepreneurs, the team leaders, and creative members, basically the whole society. We talk about university now only. And what? Everything which is above, plus ICT, plus research, plus teamwork, and self-management. Very, very interesting. Again, this is a model. This is a hypothesis. But think about this, that what will be the role? What is the new role? How best educators, universities can really be part of this paradigm shift? Consciously, we have to think about that. And consciously, we have to make changes. How many of you took a course in artificial intelligence? Oh, okay, good. But Robert, you should be really nice to me, okay? Good. So what is artificial intelligence? Today, in the European Union, there is more than 60 definitions of artificial intelligence, okay? Just to understand. Very hard to describe, but some of them, like McKinsey talks about, it's how we perceive, how we solve a problem, how we reason, how we learn, really try to understand how a machine can somehow imitate a human. My next one, which I really like, is coming from Virginia Dignum, a great scholar and researcher, and she's one of the few AI experts in Europe. She's doing lots of things in ethical AI. So definition can be in a computational technology and in a field of scientific research, and this is the original one. This is very, very important. It's coming from computer science. And of course, you can have the autonomous entity, the AI, the science fiction. This is absolutely bad, by the way. Now, another one which I really like is really shows that how it's related to us humans, how it's helping us, how it can be a tool, and how we can start to use it in different contexts, okay? Don't be afraid. Try to understand that where and how you can use it, and try to augment yourself, just like you're augmenting the technology, helping us. And then, of course, it can do things without human interventions, but it's also helping us in a way, okay? So artificial intelligence is really about reasoning, really try to get input data, try to understand, and try to make, some type of conclusions. What is machine learning is very important that it's an AI, it's a field of AI, and it's very important that it works with huge amount of data. And think about yourself, that how much data you could have gather and try to use for your psychological research and education. Just think about that. that you will have now tools. Again, you don't have to write one simple code. It's coming. There are companies who are providing this. But think about that, how you can use it, and then how you can make some sense of it. In more details, and then it's not readable, just realize. So machine learning has basically focusing on two things: how they can predict things, what will happen, and then how they can prescriptive, what to do. It's very important to achieve a goal. The first one is descriptive. It talks about what has happened before, okay? So machine learning is, again, giving a tool for prediction for you, and also gives a recommendation to achieve a goal. Think about it again as a psychologist, as an educator, how important this can be. This is a very good tool. I can use this. And this is the most complicated slide I show you. 3 very important areas: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. Just like with us and kids. Supervised learning, I'm showing things and I'm telling you that what you have to watch for, and then I'm explaining you that this is this, that is that, this is a triangle, that's not, that's a circle. I teach supervised. This is what you can do with algorithms, zillions of data, pictures, and you really show them to this little software, because it's a piece of software, that what they have to look for. The unsupervised learning, when you don't have idea about the data, and then you don't have a structure, you don't understand where are the features. One example was that a telecommunication company wanted to understand that why people are leaving the company. So a computer scientist came up with an unsupervised learning, and with this, they could predict that who is going to leave the company. Was it useful? No, because they didn't know why they are leaving the company, so they couldn't make any action. But they at least understand that a certain person is going to leave. And then the reinforcement learning is something when you really want to learn about the environment and there's interact with the environment. You have a force feedback loop, just like you saw it in the Internet of Behaviors. And then based on that, you have goals, and then the algorithm is basically optimizing, okay? So what it can do, the supervised learning is up until now at least, this is something like this. You have an input, pictures, and then you have a response. Are there human faces? And then basically you use photos. This is what they can do. They can do this now. How good? That's not obvious. Why is that? It's based on the data. And then we will talk a little bit about the data as well. But you can do loan applications, and then you can do audio clip. You can do, of course, translation, and so on and so on. So these are working. These are tools where you can already start to use. It's possible. I mean, there's lots of services where you can have. A little bit more use cases where AI is used today. I think it's very important to understand for us that it's already happening. It's already, as I said, it's a part of the Industrial Revolution. So we really have to understand that where it's used successfully. So there's a site, Deep Index, keeping track of what AI can do. They have 1,036 examples, okay? I took 3 of them. I will show them to you now, and I'll show 3, which is coming from my experiences, okay? So 1,036 examples, and it's growing. One of them is. Have you used Duolingo, any of you? Super good tool. It's related to me. This is how I'm learning Swedish every day, about 30 minutes, 40 minutes. This is my me time. But it's based on an AI platform. It's really personalizing. They have more than 300, I'm pretty sure more than 300 million users, 30 different languages. How you start, it's already, they predict what you need. They do the analysis. And then moreover, they do something which is spaced repetition. So they're really helping you to learn a more efficient way. Now, Duolingo is the surface, the application. It is based on a platform, a Swedish startup called Sana Labs, which created for educators an AI platform where you can create your own education software on top of it. Whatever it is, it shouldn't be languages. It can be maths, it can be something that is related to an organization. They give you basic AI services where you can build on and then create something very similar to what Duolingo did, very, very, very efficiently. The other one is related to autism. I think, and I'm also kind of personally impacted. One of my beautiful daughters was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3, very, very early. Did you know that there's the most autistic people are in the Nordic countries? Did you know that? Why is that? Because they actually assess the kids. That's the reason. You know, when I first met the doctor and I said, oh my God, is it genetics? I said, no, don't worry about that. No. It's actually they're assessing the kids. So what they propose, we can even earlier assess. But again, think about system of system, think about what's going to happen next. Okay, so I will know at 2 years with a 81% accuracy that girl or boy, and by the way, girls are much difficult to assess because we don't have the processes. 80% of the autistic kids are boys. So, okay, so we know, but what will we do after that? How can we create something personalized in a scale for those kids? So my hypothesis is that atypical will be the new norm. There will be no typical things, just like you needed in the mass production in the previous industry evolution. It will be okay, then early diagnosed, now we call it and label autism, but whatever it is, atypical will be the new. We can be different, and then we can do something with it. The next one from this side is detecting skin cancer. So again, unfortunately, I was involved. I had skin cancer a couple of years ago. I was diagnosed. I was treated very early. Due to why? Because that company or that clinic, they use something very similar, like this. They had an iPhone. They took pictures. They sent it in. They made analysis, and they came back. And they said, yes, you have to do a lesion. So this is very important. And then why is it important? In Sweden, when I talked to the professor, and then of course, the researcher comes out from me, and then we started to talk about it. He told me 50% of the pathological tests in Sweden for cancer, 50% related to skin cancer. It's a huge problem. They don't understand why it's happening all over Europe, by the way. And we do not have the expert system. We do not have dermatologists. We do not have that. But if you change one dermatologist at the back end, instead of having 2 humans, one AI and one human, and then they will make a decision that, yes, I think you should have an operation, that will again give you scale. And that works very, very well with supervised learning. The next one is coming from my current work. I just hosted a webinar with the director of the Swedish Media Council. They have a huge problem. They have like 700,000 minutes per day uploaded in YouTube and different type of streaming channels. And they have a task that they have to do the age classification for this material. So they are working with developmental psychologists. These psychologists, they have to sit in, go through the whole clip, and then make a decision. 3 years or 5 years old, 7 years old, 11 years old, or 15 years old. How we can automatize that, how we can replace again one psychologist with an AI when they can, for example, see that what are those scenes that kids shouldn't see. And then these psychologists, they need like 20 years of experience to do it properly. This is very, very interesting. It's a research, it just started, so it's not happening yet. The next one, which was one of my science fiction projects when I started to work with these 3 great researchers and Professor Kragic from the Real Institute of Technology. So what they do is reinforcement learning. They use your EEG to understand if you like a picture or not. They don't want to know anything else. So what they do, they generate a picture in front of you, a face. You have their EEG, and based on your feedback, they will do some modifications. So now think about this, and then they need only, I think, 4 channels somewhere here. Again, I'm not a neuroscientist. So 4 channels, very easy. It will be just like a hairband soon. They started to work with this, and original idea was when they came to me and agent them can use this in the stores. So a lady comes in, a woman comes in, and then we originally we just, as a start, we will propose a dress, and then just looking at, the dress will change until, tick, this is the optimal. And I said, maybe not. So maybe I cannot imagine women wearing these kind of EEG devices in every H&M store and then generating their dresses. But what happened is that they went to the police. So they went to the police that when somebody got victimized, and then they have to remember that what happened, or the face of somebody, that's immediately a totally different environment. And the police immediately jumped on this. This is what we need, because it takes lots of time, and so on. So they have now trials with the Swedish police and Interpol, how they can do that using GAN, basically these artificial face generations, and then feedback from the brain. Also what we are thinking, which is again organization development, and then how you can change, for example, culture, and then how you can have inclusivity in an organization, is that you do an ideation session in a group only using this. And all the people are basically getting input without talking the object. Fantastic. There's no superior, there's no race differences, there's no who is introvert, extrovert. It's basically you, your brain, and what you see. That's a little bit science fiction. I think we need more research for that. Last but not least, obviously I'm an engineer. So obviously I like whiskey. And in Sweden, there's a Swedish whiskey company. They came out the first AI-generated blended whiskey. What the hell is that? Is that right? I thought it's a great marketing. Actually, it tastes very good. But more than that, because what they're saying is that, we can generate perfumes. Again, the input is coming from the people, what they like and what they don't like, and they try to optimize this. So this is something is happening there, and even the consumer market is coming in, and then we can see foods and all other stuff, so what's happening. But it's already happening. As I said, for me, this is a very good marketing, and it's a good taste whiskey, but that's something that's happening there as well. So another big talk about, and then paradigm shift, is that where AI and machines and automation is going to replace humans. Is that right? Big question. Now I have a very good news. For the education system, according to a McKinsey report, the automation possibility is around 20, 25, 30%, and it's mainly for the overhead, okay? Whatever you do as an overhead. But still, it's a big chunk of people. And of course, the automation in Sweden as such, now think about this, the whole society is 46% in the working society. 2.1 million people will be subject to this in a way or another. Just think about the mental load, think about the uncertainty what the society is having. And again, just showing that you don't see it, but the healthcare is here, the professionals like research, and then education is the bottom in this chart. So again, your role is not to worry about that you are going to be replaced. Your role is that you prepare the others and then have other roles who are going to subject to replace. I would like to end with this quote from a great scholar, Erik Brynjolfsson. So AI won't be able to replace most of the jobs, but people who are using AI are starting to replace people who don't use AI, okay? So it's very important that you start to understand that you, as a psychologist, as this type of scientific era, you have lots of things to gain and understand and use from this. You don't have to be a computer scientist. You have to be a very good friend of the computer scientist, okay? So I'll continue now with the adoption, okay? And I think when I talk about it, it will be about AI, but I put it in brackets because I think if you think about adoption, maybe you can generalize a couple of things out of this. Maybe. I don't know. You will see. So I'm working with AI Sweden, which is a government created agency, and it goes back that what is the role of the government, how they can make sure that it's happening. So they created in Sweden, AI Sweden, which this is the mission: accelerating the use of AI for the benefit of our society, our competitiveness, and for everyone living in Sweden. This is a super good mission. One thing is missing, that it's the use of responsible AI, but we will change that. I already kind of channeled that back. So this is very important. Adoption of AI, how we can onboard society to use of AI. So again, it's not just a small group of people in ivory towers who will decide what AI is and how it can be used and what are the use cases. Very big task. So what I learned so far is two things. Adoption is not binary. This is very important. It's not like I adopt now AI and I don't adopt. This is not binary, okay? It's a very long, bumpy road. So what just Anna said, it's very important that you talk about it, you prepare for it, just like with everything else when it comes to adoption. This is very important to prepare. The second one, which is very important, and then this is again your responsibility comes in. We work a lot as technologists to augment technologies to society and to humans. But we have to augment humans also to the new norms and to the new things. So that will be a new way of thinking, feeling, and so on. And then this chapter is really about kind of this, how you can do this. So when I met this first in the Research Institute of Sweden, was responsible for an AI center there, and I said, I don't have a canvas. I don't have a map. I don't have a compass. I don't know what to do. So with some of my friends and colleagues, we came up with this map and canvas. What we say is that adoption of AI is a very complex and comprehensive thing. It's not like, and now I talk to the IT department and then now we have AI on our computers. No, not at all. So what we did is we created this. Again, is it good or bad? I don't know. I mean, we published it in an innovation magazine, but at least it gives me a chance that I can tell my story, that what I see about adoption of AI, okay? So it has technology and data, which is very important. It has strategy and ecosystem, but moreover, it has organization and mindset. And if you don't work with these together, and then you don't start to have the journey, and going from stages to stages, when you have to go into the center where there is the integrated trustworthy AI, and you don't understand that what kind of path you are, first of all, you have to assess yourself that where are you in this, then it's just not going to happen. So you can have a strategy when it says bolt-on AI, when you are just experimenting. It's not part of a new thing. It's not integrated. Your new type of lecture or education or a psychological intervention is not based on AI. That can be done also. But moreover, there are companies and organizations and societies who are trying to integrate it. Again, going back as a negative example in China, when they have social scoring, okay? The social scoring is based on how you behave, who are your friends, every camera is seeing that how happy you are, and then they give you a social score. And if you have a low social score, you cannot leave the country. As simple as that. They integrated it. Is it good? No, it's not good. Do I want that? No, I don't want that. But my point is that to do this transformation, to integrate, you really have to think about, according to us, about all of these. So I will go now, segment by segment through, and I promise that I will spend most of the time on mindset, okay? So data and technologies. What you have to know is that what is the difference between big data? Because you learn statistics, you are gathering data already. What is the difference? The big difference is these three. The volume of data, just a massive amount of data. Don't forget that this industry revolution makes this happen. It's cheap. Cheap to compute, cheap to communicate. IoT is here, cheap to gather, so you have massive amounts of data. The second is velocity. It's real time. It's not that like I gather data a month ago and then now I can start to work with it, and then 3 weeks from now I release something. Real time, close to real time, very fast. You can have conclusion much faster than before. Again, why? Because the industry revolution makes this happen to you. And then the variety. There are structured data, unstructured data, there are labeled data, there's real-time data, there's bursty data. Also, you have to understand that what kind of data collect and you don't mix it, okay? So this is one of the things with data. And then if you start the journey, you really have to have a good data strategy. Why I'm collecting data, what I'm collecting, what do I have to do with this? How fair is that data? And of course, because of GDPR now, it's very important that how anonymized if it's needed. Now the good thing is, this is an absolutely new, coming from this year, from Andrew Ng, who is one of the superstars or celebrities of AI. He's an adjunct professor at Stanford. He's the co-founder of Coursera. And also, he founded the Google Brain Project at Google. So what he says now, this is his new way for AI, do not spend time on the algorithm, work with the data. And this is a perfect chance for you, for all of you, get on board it. Because you will know what you collect. You can understand what are the features of this data. You understand that what's happening in different types of constellations when you are measuring data. You can really be the one in a data-centric AI project. You can be an expert. This is very important. And that should be your role. You can be a social data scientist, or you can be a psychology data scientist, consciously. So when it comes to AI and data, that's my hypothesis. If you use AI and big data, you will get two things, which is very important for you. You can get personalization and scale at the same time. Very important. You can do lots of things what you couldn't do before. If you collect the right data and you understand where it is, and you can differentiate what is person, what is related to a person, and what is meta information. But you have to work, and what you do have to do, you really have to understand your data, not the algorithm, the data. I think this is a very, very important message. Again, you can have scale and personalization at the same time as a value of this. That was about data, and as I mentioned, so I'm not pushing you that much. Strategy and ecosystems. If it would be a business school, of course, this would be the main objective. Now again, paradigm shift. What is an ecosystem play? It's very hard to comprehend. And then just think about, again, as you as a psychologist or an educator or a university or anybody. So big differences. Today, again, previous industrial revolution, what you did, you had a portfolio of products, mass production mainly, and then you had a portfolio of businesses as an individual in this whole society. And this is what you did. And you competed with everybody because you wanted to win. It's exponential growth, as we discussed. Grow, 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 grow. Now, in an ecosystem play, totally different. You have a portfolio of capabilities, what kind of assets you have, what kind of skills you have. And this is what you expose to the ecosystem. This is how you create value in the ecosystem. And then what you do more, you expose your relationships. You connect. Just like, again, you psychologists, you can connect with people who are working in computer science or working in mining or working whatever. You connect. So a single company interlinked in a digital ecosystems. This is a very clear pricing strategy. This is my service. This is my price. Here, you usually have a multi-sided revenue model. You are sharing the revenue. You understand how you're going to get all of you things out. And it needs a totally different behaviors. You cannot be arrogant. You cannot win. You cannot go out and then just say that, and I'm going to rule. If you're a participant or an orchestrator, first of all, even if you're an orchestrator, you cannot be in every ecosystem the orchestrator. You cannot be the boss. You cannot drive that. Some ecosystem you're a participant and some you're an orchestrator. But it's very important, even for the orchestrator, you have to get respect and you have to be accepted by the others. It's not given that you are there. Very, very interesting. And it's happening. We see that more and more that these ecosystems are coming up and happening. So when it comes to the ecosystem play, I gave you one example, which is a very interesting one for me. John Deere, a tractor factory, they had tractors. And they realized that if they want to be future-proof, if they want to create better value for who? For the farmers. And if they want to be modern, and then they really would like to take the wave of this industrial revolution, they have to be something different. And then what they did, they became an ecosystem driver, a system of system ecosystem driver. So now, if you are using John Deere, when they are harvesting the crops, they immediately measure, for example, the humidity. They immediately measure the quality, and they have an immediate impact on trading. We talk about real time. They are connected, the weather forecast. They are giving you basically a farm management system instead of a tractor. This is what they promise. They are not successful in Europe, not at all. They still are selling tractors in Europe. They don't sell everything which is related to the ecosystem. Why is that? Because in Europe, the agricultural industry is very segregated and basically very small family or very small businesses there. And their biggest asset is the land and knowledge about the land. And they told very clearly to John Deere, I'm not going to give you this information because this is the only asset what I have. So they don't trust John Deere. So again, it goes back to a very interesting mental state or mental thing, how you can be trustworthy, how you can be accepted in an ecosystem play. In areas when you have huge agriculture organizations like South America, North America, they're very successful because then it's optimization. So that's about that. And let's start with focus on today's mindset and organization. So I'm pretty sure you know him very well. Unfortunately, he passed away last year. This is one of my favorite this TED Talk, that we are educating people out of their creativity. So we have a huge problem that today's education system, especially if you talk about engineering, computer science, finance, business, you create problem solvers. We are super good problem solvers, very quick problem solvers, but zero creativity, zero, niente. Why is it important? Because AI is not solving a problem for you. AI is not giving an answer to you. AI needs lots of experimentation. You have to experiment a lot with the data. You have to experiment lots with the algorithms. You have to understand that the output is an interval. It's a likelihood. You cannot solve the problem. And even for software developers, it's a big thing. But as a function, A out function B, and then I can test it. No, you cannot. You need experimentation to adapt and use AI. You need creativity also, how you can adapt it. And also in organizations, if we go back, today, there's no incentive whatsoever in an organization for creativity. Zero incentive. Everybody is about execution, and always you have to be green. So for me, like fail is a first attempt in learning. This is a huge mindset change for big organizations, big corporations, anybody basically around us. That experimentation, without creativity, the adoption of AI is just not going to happen, okay? Very important. Edison said that I have 99 ways how not to do a light bulb. Because he was experimenting. He was the first one who created the corporate research. And he dared to experiment. And that was okay. It was okay for have not just first, but 99 attempts of learning. How we can give that back, the experimentation, the creativity, to people who are now out in the workforce, but moreover to the kids who are between, let's say, 0 and 6 or 9 or 10. The other thing is that there's lots of, you've seen this. The fixed mindset and the growth mindset. It's coming into organizational development, it's coming into organizational psychology, how you're seeing, how you're solving problems, how you're seeing the challenges. And not to be a knower and know it all, but a learner and learn it all. Very important. That you have to learn, you have to adopt all the time. This is the constant. This is basic. No, you're never finished. Never, ever finished with your learning. You cannot stop. Big change. The growth mindset. So what can we do then? How can we teach them? And then that's my hypothesis. I call it 4CAR. So I think that these are the basic skills, what we have to teach to kids so they can be a happy and successful person in 20 years from now. I don't know how to do that. I don't know if it's valid. I've got zero idea. That's my view. That's my story. Communication, critical thinking, creativity, cooperation, adaptability, and resilience. If you don't have this, if you don't teach them, and again, I don't know how, maybe we do this already, and then we are very good at that. But I think we have to emphasize that even more. Information doesn't matter, just doesn't matter. But relevant information matters. How you put together different information is matter. This is why it's very important. Communication, communicating with others in an ecosystem, critical thinking. Does it make sense? How I can argue back and forth. And then also creativity, as we said, cooperation will be very important. So what else are saying? Like Harari, who is a great scholar and then a great author as well. This is coming from the 21 Lessons for 21st Century. So even he talks about ability to deal with change, learn new things, and preserve your mental balance in unfamiliar situation. Again, the pandemic, which is a super big stress on our mental ability and mental balance, to be very honest, how we can teach this, that this is going to happen more and more. How we can have mental flexibility and great reserves of emotional balance. Emotions are coming in. Emotional balance is coming in. We have to get them. A human is 85% emotions, not the brain. Emotions. How we can teach that. Very important. And it's not just I'm saying, it's even much smarter people I'm saying about that. So what we do together with you, with the group what is led by Anna, we try to create different type of tools and environment, how we can help the kids to get there. So we have a system, Amona, which is basically shows in the free play activities, real time, how they are connected. And what we can do there is measure joint actions, space dimensions, and time dimensions as well. This is happening with you together. We are involved, our team from an Albrecht company is involved. We are producing the sensors for you, and then we are really working hand in hand with the group of researchers to make understand of the data, to understand what we measure, why we measure it, and create even you beside just to measure that what happened. We can define new types of games and toys to work on the different skills for these children. This is again research. We're working heavily on it. And I don't know, maybe you will learn more about these kind of things. But what is very, very important thing is that, again, this university is really leading in something which is very important for this paradigm shift. How we can create environments that how we are teaching the needed skills for the kids, okay? So if you move on, this was released like 4 weeks ago by McKinsey. It talks about adults. They created a survey, 18,000 people in 15 countries, and defining the skills citizens will need in the future world of work. They defined 56, they call it delta, distinct elements of talents, because it's skills and attitudes. 56. This is your canvas, to be very honest with you. No. This is your canvas, what you have to verify and make sense, okay? If you want to work with adults or children. I circulated, and I think it's not readable. So here, in the cognitive part, you have mental flexibility. We talk about McKinsey, which is a big strategy advisory company. They're not psychologists. Of course, there's lots of psychologists working them, but this is what they're saying to the CEOs and world leaders, that cognitive and then in that mental flexibility will be important. So creativity and imagination, translating knowledge to different contexts, adopting a different perspective, adaptability to learn. Okay? I highlighted that because I think it's super relevant for this audience, for us here. Then they talk about self-leadership, about yourself. And then they talk about self-awareness and self-management. They talk about understanding own emotions and triggers. They talk about self-control and regulation. And again, it's mainly emotions. Talk about understanding own strength, integrity, self-motivation and wellness, self-confidence. I mean, if you're a practicing psychologist, I think this is what you mean every day. All these questions. This is very, very obvious. Now they talk about the skills. Proactively, how we can teach that people can, so not like psychologists, when the problem comes, I come in as a cure. Very interesting. Then interpersonal, they have developing relationships, empathy, inspiring trust, humility, sociability. And in the bottom, when they call digital, of course, understanding digital systems, which is very important for you, digital literacy, smart systems, cybersecurity literacy, and technology transitions and enablement. So what they say, that this is a map, this is what they propose to governments, this is the proposal that you really have to think about, based on 18,000 people in 15 countries, what they say that this is the map to achieve that these people will add value beyond what can be done by automated systems, operate in a digital environment, and continually adapt to new ways of working and new occupation. Continuous adoption. That's something that you have to think about. Continuous adoption. And moreover, they also did a survey that how it's affecting now people. What are those out of those 56 that the employment rate, you have a better chance that you are employed, and you have a high income, and then you have a job satisfaction. So number one, employment, about 20%, between 20 and 30%, these people who have these skills, synthesizing messages, coping with uncertainty, adaptability, 20, 30 times percent the likelihood that they are employed. Then in the second one, high income, self-confidence, work plan development, organization awareness, obviously. And in job satisfactions is self-confidence, coping with uncertainty, self-motivation, and wellness. So they already pointed out a couple of things that the people who are, let's put it this way, happy and successful today in the society, they tend to have these type of skills or attitudes. That's also a hint that what we can focus on. So it was a very interesting survey, and then I was positively super surprised that how much is coming from related to emotions. And I would like to again, from Dame Minouche Shafik, who was the director of the London School of Economics and Political Science, in this interview, which is linked here, she said that in the past jobs were about muscles. Now they're about brains, but in the future they will be about the heart. Very, very important. So now, definitely as I was educated in my heart, in my brain. This is why I'm a problem solver. I'm a super good problem solver. Can I really work with my heart? Maybe, maybe not. Do I understand my emotions? Can I regulate them? Maybe, maybe not. Or I learned it on the hard way. Let's put it this way, okay? So, that's me. I interpreted it to this. Then in the past, we learned lots of physical skills. Now we are learning managing behaviors. It's everything about behaviors, how you behave, how you fit in. You really, again, you're braining, you're managing everything. You're hiding your emotions. You behave. But in the future, we really have to learn how to manage our own emotions. We have to teach that. Because if the future is about the heart, then emotions, we have to really teach that. So Another great scholar and one of my online mentor, Brené Brown. She was a tenure professor at Texas University, 25 years research in vulnerability, shame, and courage. This is a very good Netflix video, by the way. And I sat down and wrote these quotes for you. No vulnerability, no creativity. No tolerance for failure, no innovation. If you are not willing to build a vulnerable culture, you can't create. Is that just simple? Very, very important to understand that how we are going to leaning into vulnerability, how we are managing and letting emotions in, how we can open up ourselves. Again, what she says, working with 50,000 different people in the world on organizational development, that this is very important to be happy and successful in life. She has a podcast series on Spotify and talks a lot about armored versus daring leadership. I don't want to go into details now. What's the difference between them? You can listen to this. It's like 2 times 40 minutes. But it's very important what she says here. Again, I listened and I wrote it down for you. Emotional heart to keep vulnerability coursing through the veins of courage and to engage in all the behaviors we talk about being necessary for good work. Trust, innovation, creativity, accountability. Severed heart, severed courage. Imprisoned heart, suffocated courage. There is just no courage without vulnerability and without emotion. So what are we doing with this? It's very clear that from McKinsey, from London School of Economics, from a psychologist professor, everybody starts to really talk about this, that the paradigm shift for us from the brain go to the heart, how we can teach that. So what we are doing again, and then the great group, the same group what Anna is leading, in the adoption research group, we started to work with EDA, electrodermal activity. We tried to understand the data, how we can create fingerprints, for example. We started to measure. We started to do group measurements, and we started to create some new tools that how we can help people to learn, to manage, or to regulate their emotions. Again, this is research, and this is between research and technology transfer. We see some very, very good results. And we are working with that a lot. But we are not the only one. Anna and her group, and especially Christian, he was exposed and contacted with Rosalind Picard, great professor at MIT, computer scientist, who created a company, Empatica, which is basically did the research transfer to a company. And one of the results is that they have embraced two, which is basically nothing else, just a 24/7 measurement and tool to measure epileptic seizure. They can predict around 20 minutes before an epileptic seizure happens, they can predict that it's going to happen to you. So what they do, they send a message to a person, a caregiver, to take care of yourself. Lots of children are dying of the silent epileptic attack. When basically you don't see anything, just the people doesn't move, or it's sleeping, or just sitting. And if there's no intervention, nothing else, just tapping on the shoulder, they die because they suffocate themselves. This is coming out from a psychology data stream, EDA, and having a very clear application. Moreover, she created another one, which is a research tool, very expensive research tool. This is $1,600. It measures lots of things, but what they do is, this is very important for you to understand. So now, there's a new modality beside voice, beside how you look, beside everything, there's a new modality. Your emotion is a new modality for computer scientists to understand that what's going on, okay? And they have devices, they are developing devices. We are developing devices here as well. And also Fitbit does. Fitbit has an EDA device on their new watch. Who is owning Fitbit? Google. Why do they need the E or EDA? Internet of Behaviors. It's not just what you read, it's not just what you watch, but what you feel. They can make you buy more based on your feelings, what you like and what you don't like. That's my conspiracy. So what we do here is that we're also working and we also try to understand and help and come up with new algorithms, new applications, that how we can teach people, adults and children, that they can work with their emotions. We developed something which is called calming the waves or calm the waves. I call this that this is the push-up. This is the push-up for the emotional regulation. You have to do this every day to get stronger and stronger. You have to work every 10, 15, 20 minutes per day, and then maybe you will learn how to do that. So we are also working with this, how you can have then optimal performance for your emotions. So again, here, this department, this university is also doing something which I think it's world class, and it's absolutely outlier in this research. So I'll leave you with this. This is a word cloud that I created. I talked a lot of things about, and I really appreciate your attention. I really hope that some couple of things made you think, and then also try to understand that how and why you are fitting in, and how and why you have a very big responsibility as psychologists in this paradigm shift. And then also I hope that I help you put it into a greater picture to understand this anxiety, what's happening around us, which is one of them is because it's happening because we are living through a paradigm shift. So by that, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.